So I realized that this problem that she had with me was completely fabricated. In the instant, I thought it was a serious problem, and she even got the manager involved, and it was a serious problem. However, it was resolved relatively quickly because I just went straight to the manager and said, "Hey, I'll do whatever you tell me to do." Put it right in the manager's position, and this took all the power away from my neighbor. And this taught her a lesson about me, and this was that this guy is not an idiot. But the whole point to the whole problem was a gossipy dig to try to see what I'm about, see what she can get away with. And she doesn't even know that she's doing all this stuff. That's what just blows me away. Is that these techniques are so ingrained and part of them, it's like they don't even know they exist for so many women. And so it's been 6 months, and she decided to have a talk with me again. She'd been drinking, felt a little lonely, didn't want to sit in her house by herself, loaded. And did this whole apology thing, and I want to get to know you. And I told her I had to make these things clear because she obviously started you know, a problem. She started with a problem to try and get a readout from me, sticking her nose where it didn't need to be. And I resolved the problem, and it was fine for 6 months. And then I got another neighbor. She's still here, and I live in there's multiple apartments all right next to me. And this woman wanted to get a readout with me too. And the neighbor that had the original problem cornered me and said, "Okay, I'd like to, resolve this problem, make it all nice." I said, "Listen, I grew up where there was lots of land and lots of room, and then I moved into an apartment, and I realized, I need to keep having my space. So I give lots of space to my neighbors so that they will return the favor and give me lots of space. Doesn't mean I'm rude, doesn't mean I don't want to talk. It's just that this is my private place, and I don't want to be when I'm in my private place, I want to be in my private place." It came out much nicer. I do much better in the instant, in the present moment. It comes out very pleasurable. People understand me. They realize I don't want to hurt anyone. And they're not offended, typically. Now, you put somebody of a position of authority in front of me, they're offended immediately. And I understand it's usually because they recognize that I've got skills, authoritative skills, that I do not like to pull out of my hat. Because it just becomes a push and a pull between a superior and an inferior, and it's just, you got to go past those clashing rocks of what you think is superior and inferior. You got to go past that. It's very childlike behavior. But we are where we're at. But I realized she was on a fishing expedition for my other neighbor. What is this guy about? Why does he, who is he? And, curiosity is, I think it's great. However, when we present ourselves to another person, I think it's very important that we understand what posture and stance we're taking. with that other person, to inquire, you know, to make our inquiry about them. It's I genuinely feel that people are holy ground. Like the oceans are holy ground, the air is holy ground, and the proper stance and posture is one of awe, humility, and respect. Because everything is unfolding a tremendous mystery that can either be our boon or our burden. It's typically both, but as creative individuals, we have a choice. So this fishing expeditions of ladies and trying to measure a guy up, and then the all too typical of making things into superiors and inferiors, These are very boring to me. I know I have a lot to give. However, if the feminine is going to work through an established system of monetary exchange, then there's got to be something given in return, So I ran across this book called The Gift by this French thinker, Moss. And basically, it boils down to this concept that the attitude in which a gift is given is the attitude in which it shall return. Everything comes around that goes around. So, what you give, you shall receive. But if you're unaware that you're antagonistic, demanding, bossy, needy, then that's what you're going to receive. When you give that out, that's the attitude you give with, that's the attitude you're going to receive with. And then you get these manipulators that muck up the whole thing, taking more than their share at another's expense. The capitalistic mentality. My elder that I've been working with, it's had me working on this signature in the cell. He says he's a capitalist, but he also taught judges how to judge. This guy was a smart guy, gave classes, all this stuff, and I told him, courts are for people who don't know how to communicate, and the courts are a place where people are learning how to communicate. So capitalism is just another classroom of learning how to exchange goods. That's all. And we learn through our mistakenness. We don't learn anything unless we're mistaken about something. New perspectives. And it can be relatively harmless unless we're overinvested. We've overvalued something. If we overvalue something and we overly rely upon it because we've overly valued it, then when we come to learn about our mistake, it can hurt. So I realized that with certain women, It's not my place to teach them a damn thing. And they're only looking for certain information. And I might as well just give them that information right up front so that they don't waste my time, because I got better things to do. I could actually be having fun with somebody instead of being measured up by them. But I understand they have their needs. I was talking to a friend, their bodies are made in such a way as to create children. And that a man, we think we've got these great strong bodies and everything, but actually the wonderful flower, the wonderful blossom of life in the human species is the creation of a physical form that can create another physical form. Women typically live longer than men. We think we got these great bodies and everything, but actually, in the scheme of life, it could be that the female is the perfected form. And, as far as perfection goes, nothing's perfect, and so all the weaknesses are put into man. But there's another aspect, is that they're always emptying out, which requires for them to consume to rebuild themselves. And they're always filling back up, which requires more consumption. So consumption, 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 consumption. And it's very obvious to me, like when a woman breastfeeds, she just drops the weight from being pregnant. Producing all that milk is just very healthy for her, but just requires tremendous amounts of consumption. And she can eat and still drop the weight unless there's some kind of imbalance or something. Beautiful creatures.